and welcome. In this episode of my Houseplant Care 101 series, I'm going to be sharing some helpful and simple tips and suggestions when it comes to repotting your snake plant. Now, these plants are extremely easy care. If you're like me and you love plants, if you're a newbie or if you've had plants for a long time, snake plants are at the tippy top of all of our favorites. They're just so easy care. They're so incredibly beautiful, so many different varieties, but there are definitely certain things to keep in mind that will help set you up for success when you are repotting them. So some really helpful things to keep in mind when you're repotting your snake plant is when is the right time to repot, what type and size pot to use. The type of soil is extremely important. A review on the roots, what things to look out for when it comes to the roots. A mention on propagation and division, repotting, and also what to do for care after repotting. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Ashley and I'm obsessed with all things houseplants. If you'd like to see plant shopping videos or plant care videos in your newsfeed, make sure to subscribe and maybe give me a follow on Instagram. I absolutely love my plant community. First, a huge thank you to Repottme.com for sponsoring this episode. They are a tremendous resource to the plant community, and to be honest, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't even be doing this awesome Houseplant Care 101 series for you guys, so huge thank you to them. Repottme.com is dedicated to providing quality plant care products. They specialize in products for houseplants, orchids, succulents, African violets, and more. I love their incredible potting soil and mediums because they're all such terrific quality. Their pots and planters are also a favorite of mine for my plants. Their original Repottme designed pots, like the slotted orchid pots and oxygen core duo pots, help create the perfect environment for growing. They're also well known for their plant-specific fertilizers, pest prevention options, grow lights, care tips, and more. During this repotting, I'll be using their cactus and succulent classic potting mix as well as their slotted orchid pots. I've included their website in my description below so you can take a look at their quality plant care products. The first thing to know is when is the right time to repot your snake plant. Now, there are some things that you can keep an eye out for on your snake plants that will clearly show you it's ready for repotting. Now, the first thing to know is that these plants do enjoy being root bound. So just because they're a little root bound doesn't necessarily mean that they're ready to be repotted yet. By being root bound, it helps prevent the plant from becoming overwatered. These plants store a lot of water in their leaves. They store water in the rhizomes and the soil. So if there's a lot of extra soil, that increases the chance of that soil, having moisture in it. So that extra moisture in that extra soil has a higher probability of causing root rot on the plant. Now, I'd say that's probably the number one cause for most killings of snake plants is overwatering. These plants are so easy care that there's not much you can do to kill them, which is awesome, except for overwatering. So with that said, just because your snake plant is root bound does not necessarily mean it's ready to be repotted. Some things to keep an eye out for that will help point out if it's the right time to repot is if you see roots coming out of the bottom, roots coming out of the top. You might want to pull your plant out and check that there are, a lot of roots throughout the entire plant. I'll show you on this one. Like, as you can see, there's a lot of roots. So on snake plants, the roots don't necessarily grow down, they grow more out. They're a crawling plant. So if you notice that there's bulging happening, if you have a plastic planter, like on this one, you can see there's bulging happening here, or if you have a terracotta pot that's cracking or a ceramic pot and it's cracking, that's because the plant is trying to, grow out and it has lost room and there's nowhere else for the roots to go. So that's a really good indicator that the plant's ready to be repotted. So because these plants enjoy being root bound, which helps prevent it from becoming overwatered with a lot of extra soil in the pot, you're not going to want to go up more than like 1 or 2 inches. Also, again, because the roots grow out and not down, you'll want to get a shallow pot. You're not going to want to get a pot that's very deep. As you can see, I'm going to be repotting this little cutie, and I've kept a pot that's about the same depth as its original nursery pot. You don't want to go deeper than the pot is already in. You do want to have the opportunity to have about 1 inch down from the top to where the soil is going to be, and you want something very, very well draining. So when it comes to the material of the pot itself, terracotta is amazing because it'll wick away any additional moisture in the soil and really help prevent root rot. Now, I'm a huge fan of plastic nursery pots. I like them because it's easy when it comes to repotting because I can just squeeze them, which I can't do with terracotta, and I can keep an eye on the roots. I like how they're clear. I usually will just put it inside of another pot you know, a decorative pot. However, if you are gonna go that route, really focus on something with a lot of drainage. And I love these. I'm obsessed with these orchid pots from Repottme.com because they have not only they have awesome drainage here, but they also have little holes all over the sides, which will allow airflow to the roots and to the soil, which helps prevent root rot. But either or is great when it comes to snake plants. Now, the type of soil you're using when repotting these plants is very, very important. Like, I can't stress that enough. And the most important part is for it to be well draining. Now, whether you're making your own mix or using something store-bought, just make sure that when you pour the water in, that it is very well draining. Really, the number one way that people kill these plants is by overwatering them. For the soil to become waterlogged and not be well draining is like a death sentence to these plants. Other than that, they're super, super easy care. Now, I'm a big proponent of mixing my own soil. So if that's the route you're taking, I'm always a big one for experimenting and seeing what works. So if you're using a potting mix, I would say just use 1/3 of the potting mix if it is something that retains a lot of moisture, and mix the rest with a substrate that is well draining. So whether that's pumice or perlite or orchid bark or something that's going to make sure that a lot of the water gets drained out pretty quickly. You do want to make sure that the plant has the opportunity to have a good drink, but that it's not going to stay waterlogged for a long period of time after watering. I found on the website this mixture called Cactus and Succulent on Repottme.com, and I don't have to mix my own soil. It's absolutely perfect. I was actually really thrilled because it saves me a step when it comes to repotting. It has sand, it has pumice, it has perlite, it has cocoa coir. I mean, it just has all the good stuff in it. So that's what I'm going to be using today. Now, when I'm repotting a plant, I always take a minute to take a look at the roots. It's the perfect time to really gauge how healthy the plant is. Now, these roots look really, really good. They're a nice, healthy color. I can see lots of kind of new growth happening. However, if you see some roots that are really brown or mushy, that means that those roots are dying and probably have some sort of root rot. So what you'll want to do is take a clean set of shears or scissors or a knife and make sure that they're sanitized and just cut away those bad roots. Again, this is the perfect opportunity to kind of do a little maintenance on the plant while you're in the process of already repotting it. In addition to just checking out the plant, doing a little bit of root maintenance if you need to, this is the perfect opportunity to propagate this plant. Now, this plant has numerous pups that have grown into big, beautiful plants. So if I wanted to propagate this by division, this would be the perfect time to do that. Now, I'm not trying to divide this plant today, but if I wanted to, it's incredibly simple. I would just clear away the soil here, take a clean pair of shears or a clean knife, and I would clear it away, give a little bit of room so that it has some good established roots already going for the new plant, and I would just cut the rhizome off and the pup off, and you can put that in soil, or maybe give it a little bit of time to callus over and then put that in soil or water or whatever you want to do there. You can also propagate a snake plant by trimming off the leaves and putting that in some water or some soil. However, if your goal is to get a true clone of the mother plant, the best way to get that is to do a propagation by division. This is actually a fantastic time to wash the leaves off as well. Just check for any pests, maybe wipe them down with some neem oil. You know, you've examined the roots, make sure all that looks good, but this is also the perfect time to make sure that the leaves look good as well. So this is the time that some people may remove the soil on the plant, tickle the roots, get rid of the old soil. If I'm not propagating it by division where I'm having to remove the soil to do that, or if I'm not seeing pests, I prefer to leave the root ball as is and not disrupt it too much. I've found that the roots will find their way into the new soil on their own without me disturbing the root ball and causing root trauma. Because if you do that, the plant will focus on recovering from the root trauma after you repot it instead of putting out great new growth and those leaves that we love so much. If you have a pot and you're having to put a lot of dirt on the bottom to get it to sit up high enough, then you've chosen a pot that's way too deep, and you might want to exchange out for a more shallow pot, because we don't want a lot of extra soil hanging out that may cause root rot. So the soil is fabulous, guys. I will say this stuff, thumbs up, Ashley approved for snake plants. This is awesome. It has tons of stuff in it. I was worried it wasn't gonna have enough to like retain moisture, because you do want it to retain at least a little bit of moisture for the plant to have a drink, but this stuff has enough of that, so I'm excited about the soil. I usually do a top dressing with either orchid bark or gravel or rocks to help prevent fungus gnats, and it usually looks really nice, but I don't have any of that on me. The very last thing you want to do is just give it a bit of water, just help the soil kind of settle in. As you can see, it's very well draining, but it's still retaining enough moisture that the plant will get a good drink. Some things to keep in mind after repotting your snake plant. Don't put it in bright, super bright light after you've repotted it. These are usually tolerant of that, but after you've repotted it, the plant's already a little bit stressed out. Give it the best opportunity to recover in some bright indirect light. It will love you for that. I don't fertilize right away. I wait a few weeks before fertilizing so that it gets adjusted to its new pot. So that's it. Like I said, very simple, none of it's rocket science. However, these tips will definitely help set you up for success when it comes to repotting these snake plants. If you have any additional tips and suggestions that you have found work great, make sure to leave them in the comments below for everybody. We're a big community here, so we love to hear what everyone has to say, and any tips and suggestions are very, very helpful. Now, if you'd like to see future care episodes or plant shopping episodes, make sure to subscribe and give me a follow on Instagram. Again, huge thank you to Repottme.com for sponsoring my Houseplant Care 101 series. They are awesome. I highly, highly recommend them. I've included their website in my description below, so you can take a look at their quality plant care products. All right, guys, I hope you have a fabulous rest of the day. You will definitely be seeing me soon. Bye.